The sweltering heat of the Virginia summer pressed down on the soldiers like a physical weight, making every step feel heavier, every breath feel hotter. In the heart of this stifling humidity stood two figures engaged in a duel of wills. General John Sedgwick of the Union Army and his Confederate counterpart, General Jubal Early. Their opposing positions, however, were not defined by political loyalties or personal ambitions, but by a shared love for a woman. This peculiar situation was not born out of youthful folly or a chance encounter, but was deeply rooted in the tangled complexities of the Civil War. As the conflict dragged on, dividing families and burning homes, it also sparked unlikely bonds, challenging the rigid lines that divided the nation. John Sedgwick and Jubal Early were not merely military adversaries, but friends forged in the fires of the Mexican-American War, where they fought shoulder to shoulder, sharing camaraderie and hardship. At that time, there had been no animosity between them, only respect and admiration for each other's skills as soldiers. But fate had a cruel twist in store when both men found themselves on opposite sides of a conflict that threatened to tear not just a nation, but their friendship apart. Then came Helen Viola, a Southern belle from a prominent Virginia family whose spirit was as untamable as the wild roses that grew near her home. She was a woman of fiery spirit and strong will, unafraid to voice her opinions even when they went against the prevailing winds of the time. It was at a social gathering in Richmond that Sedgwick first set eyes on Viola. He was immediately struck by her intelligence, her wit, and the fire that burned in her eyes. For him, she represented not just a romantic interest, but a connection to a way of life he was fighting to preserve. Early, too, harbored deep feelings for Viola, having known her since childhood. Their bond was strengthened by their shared Southern heritage, their love of the land, and their belief in the cause for which they were fighting. Thus, when Viola's family home was threatened by approaching Union troops, Early pledged to defend it, unaware that he was walking into a trap laid by none other than Sedgwick himself. Their paths collided in a dramatic confrontation on the battlefield. Neither man gave ground, neither yielded in the face of the other's convictions. It was a clash not just of arms, but of ideals, of loyalty to their respective sides, and of the undying love they bore for the same woman. But the Civil War was a merciless mistress. It offered no quarter, no understanding of personal entanglements, and as the battle raged, the odds of Sedgwick and Early emerging unscathed, both physically and emotionally, seemed slim. For the Civil War was not just a battleground of strategy and sacrifice. It was also a proving ground for the strength of the human spirit, a testament to the endurance of the human heart. Their meeting was as dramatic as the war itself, the heat of battle giving way to the crackling tension of a confrontation between old friends turned bitter rivals. Each man's face was grim, their eyes hard with the resolve of men who knew the cost of war firsthand. But beneath the surface, there was recognition, respect, and a shared sadness at the turn their friendship had taken. Theirs was a bond forged in the crucible of war, tested by the horrors they had faced together. And as they stood there, locked in this strange duel, it was clear that nothing would ever be the same again. But as the days passed, the war continued to rage, casting its long shadows across the hearts of those involved. Sedgwick, haunted by the memory of their shared past and the possibility of losing early in battle, began to question his own role in the conflict. His love for Viola burned brightly, but it was tempered by the knowledge that it might never be fulfilled. And Early, torn between his duty to his cause and his affection for Sedgwick, found himself at a crossroads. The more they saw each other on the battlefield, the more the war seemed pointless. They questioned the righteousness of a conflict that pitted friend against friend. They exchanged meaningful glances across the divide, unspoken words passing between them, carrying the weight of their shared history and the torment of their present circumstances. However, as the war relentlessly churned on, they couldn't afford to let sentiment cloud their judgment. Duty called, and both men were unwavering in their commitment to their respective sides. So they were forced to keep fighting, not just for the sake of their causes, but to keep the memory of their friendship alive amidst the ruins of a divided nation. Yet amid the smoke and the fury of battle, a seed of doubt was planted. Was this conflict truly worth the lives it was taking, the families it was breaking? What was the point of victory when it meant losing something as precious as friendship? These questions echoed in their hearts, unanswered, their only response the relentless pounding of the drums of war. The story of Sedgwick and Early is a powerful reminder of the impact of war on the human soul, demonstrating that even in the darkest times, hope and humanity can endure. It is a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of friendship, showing that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit can prevail. As the conflict reached its climax, Sedgwick and Earle found themselves leading their armies in a final desperate battle. The stakes were high, the losses mounting, and the weight of their decisions heavy on their shoulders. But as they stood there, amidst the chaos and destruction, they couldn't help but remember the carefree days of their youth, when they had fought side by side for a different cause. Driven by ambition and the desire for glory, they had dreamed of a future where honor and duty would lead them to greatness. But now, older, wearier, and forever marked by the horrors they had witnessed, they realized the true cost of war. It was a harsh awakening that stripped away the illusions of their youth, leaving them with nothing but the stark reality of their present. Yet amidst the carnage, there was a flicker of humanity. There was a moment when Sedgwick and Earle locked eyes across the battlefield, not as enemies, but as friends. In that brief instant, the bitterness of conflict gave way to the warmth of shared memories. They saw not the Confederate and the Union soldier, but the young men they once were, full of dreams and hopes for the future. For a moment, the roar of cannons faded into the background, the clash of steel dulled to a murmur, and all that remained was the silent acknowledgement of a bond that had endured the test of time. It was a profound realization that shook them to their core, forcing them to confront the absurdity of a war that had turned friends into foes. In that moment of clarity, they questioned the righteousness of their cause. Was this conflict really worth the pain it had inflicted, the lives it had destroyed, the friendships it had shattered? What was the point of victory, when it meant sacrificing everything they held dear? These questions echoed in their hearts, unanswered. The war demanded their attention, their loyalty, their very survival. And so they were forced to return to the fight, their minds heavy with the weight of their decisions, their spirits dampened by the realization that the path ahead would lead only to greater loss and deeper sorrow. Their story highlights the tragic consequences of war, showing that it is not just a battle of armies, but a struggle that takes place within the hearts and minds of those involved. As the Civil War came to a close, Sedgwick and Earle found themselves at opposite ends of the defeated army. The war was over, but the scars it left behind ran deep, deeper than any wound that could be healed by time. Theirs was a defeat that cut to the bone, leaving them questioning not just the meaning of the conflict, but the meaning of their lives. The battlefield was silent now, the echoes of gunfire replaced by the mournful cries of wounded soldiers. The air hung heavy with the stench of death and decay, a grim reminder of the countless lives that had been lost in the pursuit of victory. Sedgwick and Earle, once proud leaders of men, now stood defeated, their dreams and ambitions lying shattered at their feet. The future seemed bleak, the path ahead uncertain, and as they looked out across the desolate landscape, they couldn't shake the feeling that a part of them had died on that battlefield, taking with it the innocence of their youth and the hope of a brighter tomorrow. Despite their differences, they shared a profound sense of loss, a grief that transcended the boundaries of loyalty and patriotism. They had given their all to a cause that had ultimately failed, leaving them empty and disillusioned. But amidst the ruins of their dreams, there was a glimmer of hope. For in the aftermath of war, there is always the possibility of healing, the chance to rebuild what has been lost and to find meaning in the face of adversity. Sedgwick and Earle, though forever marked by the scars of their experiences, could choose to honor the fallen by striving to create a better future. They could carry the memory of their fallen comrades, not as a burden, but as a source of strength, a reminder to work towards a world where such conflicts would never repeat themselves. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that war leaves no victors, only survivors. It is a tale of resilience and the enduring power of the human spirit, showing that even in the darkest hours, hope and humanity can endure. Thank you for watching. If you want to know more about the hidden stories of the Civil War, stay tuned. See you in the next video.